In case you missed it, here's a Sports Animal Rewind.
Let's talk college football. It's time for the Sports Page Summer of College Football, presented by Buddy Gregg RVs and Motorhomes, our daily preview of teams and conferences around the country for the upcoming college football season. Find Buddy Gregg RVs and Motorhomes on their Facebook page, their website at buddygregg.com, and follow them on Twitter at Buddy Gregg RVs. Now let's take a look at the Ole Miss Rebels.
To help us do that, we bring in from Rebels 247, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, covering the Ole Miss Rebels. That is David Johnson. Hey, David, Vincent, Jesse here in Knoxville. How you doing, David?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me home this morning.
Well, we appreciate you doing it, especially on short notice. But let's get started with talking about Bo Wallace. What's his health status, and how can he be better this year for Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think to address the health issues right off the bat, everything coming out of the Ole Miss camp on Bo Wallace is 100% positive. They're expecting him to be fully healthy by the time practice starts in August. He's throwing the football now, throwing the football very well with great velocity. And to that point, I don't think most of the world realized how hurt Bo Wallace played last season. Pretty much after the Texas game, it was a struggle for Bo, as you started noticing he didn't go to the deep ball as much. And, of course, as soon as the season's over, as soon as they take care of Pitt in the Compass Bowl, they address that issue with shoulder surgery. But the rehab's going fine. He's expected to be 100%. And, with a year of this offense already under his belt, he's going to be that much better this year. Freeze, a lot of times during the course of last season, alluded to the fact that they had only installed probably about 50% of what they actually wanted to do. Now you've got a quarterback coming back this year as a junior who's got a year of that system under his belt, and he should be able to run it like a true field general this fall.
What about the running back situation? Jeff Scott, who owned the position, got hurt, I think, in the bowl game. Guys like Jalen Walton, Octavius Mathers came in, performed well. I remember Octavius with a long touchdown run. Then you enter Mark Dodson into the fold, the freshman from Whitehaven. Yeah. How heated is that running back competition right now?
You know what? I think it's very, very heated. As you talked about, you've got a senior like Jeff Scott, who is a proven commodity on the SEC football field. But I got to tell you, the best looking running back in Oxford, Mississippi this spring was the true freshman Mark Dodson. Of course, he was an early enrollee, so he got to campus in January, went through spring practice, and he is a guy who can take it to the outside. He can punch it up in there on the inside. He's a really complete back. And I would expect Mark Dodson, you're going to hear his name a lot on Saturdays this fall. The running back position's deep at Ole Miss. Of course, the one thing that they focused on in this 2014 recruiting class is getting a big, powerful type running back into Oxford, which they've accomplished that with the commitment of Akeem Judd out of Georgia Military. Of course, he won't join the team until the 2014 season. But as far as this year's backs go, plenty of speed in the backfield. I don't know that I've ever seen an Ole Miss backfield with this much speed in it. And then you've got a guy like Mark Dodson, who I tell you I wouldn't be afraid to hand to on 3rd and 1. He's a between the tackles back as well as a guy that can skirt to the outside and get you some yardage.
Joined by David Johnson, who covers the Ole Miss Rebels for Rebels 247, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. I'm Vince Ferrara, along with Jesse Smithey, focusing on Ole Miss today. David, quick hit if you could. The talented group of wide receivers, and then it looks like quite a bit of experience on the offensive line as well.
Yeah, no doubt about that. The offensive line I'm really excited about. A name to watch up front on that offensive line is Pierce Burton. He's kind of a swing tackle. He can play both the right tackle position and the left tackle position. But in the spring, Pierce looked like an NFL caliber offensive lineman. As a matter of fact, I recall one practice, and I'm standing there with Terrence Metcalf, who played 9 years for the Chicago Bears, and Bradley Sowell, who's currently playing offensive line for the Indianapolis Colts, and just listening to those two guys talk about what Pierce looked like out there. Pierce Burton's going to have a big year up front. Evan Swindle is a Remington Trophy watch list guy for the second year in a row at center. He's kind of the captain up front on that offensive line. And they've got a little bit of depth. You know, you can't forget the fact that they're bringing in Laramie Tunsil, the nation's top-rated tackle, from that 2013 signing class. So the O-line looks pretty good. Receivers, Dante Moncrief is the name everyone knows, but Jamez Logan and Vince Sanders behind Dante, they're very formidable themselves. And then you've got a true freshman that'll be on the field this fall named Laquan Treadwell, one of the top recruits in the country, that you could throw into that receiver mix as well.
You also got another top recruit in the country, freshman, coming in at defensive end, right?
Yeah, Robert Kimdichie. And you know what? That's we were talking about that the other day. The first day the Rebels put the pads on in August, and Kimdichie hops into an Oklahoma drill. There's probably going to be more media there than there's going to be at the Ole Miss Vanderbilt game to open up the season, to see him take his first college licks and see what happens with that. But he came in looking great. The kid is, he looks like a first-round NFL draft choice just when you're giving the eyeball test. And everybody's anxious to see what he's going to be able to do when those pads get put on and how much he'll be able to contribute this fall.
We're joined by David Johnson from Rebels247. You can find them on Twitter. It's at Rebels247. Last couple things with you. Is his projected spot as an outside backer that can put his hand down to rush the end? How do you think they'll work him in and use him in that Ole Miss defense?
Yeah, I don't think we know the answer to that for sure until you get out there in August and they're able to really just see what he's doing, going live speed against SEC competition. There is talk of both. Perhaps he lines up on the outside, perhaps, and of course he's physical enough and big enough and quick enough that you can put his hand in the dirt and move him to the interior of the line as well. So, I think there's a lot of equations out there about what might happen with Robert Kimdichie, but I think you really won't know that answer until put the helmets and the pads on this fall, this summer.
I'm sorry, David, last couple quick things. Just if you could hit on the secondary and then special teams.
Yeah, secondary looks real good. At the safety position, of course, you've got Trey Elston returning along with Cody Pruitt. Elston, of course, the kid that was suspended by Mike Sly for the vicious hit against Texas El Paso last year. He'll be back for his sophomore year. Pruitt will be a senior back there, kind of the captain of the secondary. Corners, you've got Charles Sawyer, a fifth-year senior who is very, very experienced. And the other corner, still kind of up in the air. Ole Miss has a player by the name of Nick Brazel, and if Brazel can be academically eligible, he is still enrolled in school at this time, he is a lockdown corner that'll play one side of that defense. But got to see what he does in the classroom first.
Well, earlier in the show, we talked about Ole Miss's schedule. They have a real tough opening, a lot of road games at Texas, Alabama, Auburn. How pivotal is it or important is it, how much importance you place on that stretch against Texas, Alabama, and Auburn for Ole Miss to at least pick up a win or two in that stretch so that when they do return home for that 6-game home stretch, all the excitement of the season isn't really siphoned out?
Yeah, it's to me, and of course, you can ask a coach or somebody and they'll say, well, you don't ever put all your eggs in one basket, but to me the tone setter for their entire season is the Vanderbilt game, the Thursday night season opener in Nashville. If they win that ball game, they come home and play Southeast Missouri, and they should start 2-0. And that's when you get into 3 straight on the road, at Texas, at Alabama, at Auburn. So if you start 2-0 with Vandy and SEMO, and the worst you're leaving Tuscaloosa is 2-2 and 1-1 in the SEC, and then things become a little more manageable in the fact that you got a road game at Auburn, and then you do come home for 6 in a row. Although that 6 in a row starts off with Texas A&M and LSU.
Right.
To me, the 7-game mark of the season will be the telltale sign. If Ole Miss comes out of those first 7, 3-4 or better, Ole Miss is going to have a big year. A big year, I think, because the bottom portion of the schedule, which features Idaho, Arkansas, Troy, Missouri, and Mississippi State, those are very winnable games because this football team is going to be better than what it was last year. The question is, will their record indicate that?
A lot of excitement in Oxford and with Ole Miss fans, although a tough week this week with the death of one of their players in Park Stevens in a car accident. Just real quick touch on that, David, if you could.
Yeah, by all accounts, and everybody just absolutely loved Park Stevens. Kind of the big jovial guy that kept the mood lighthearted all the time. He came in and just became an integral part of that team in a very short time after transferring from East Central Mississippi. Funeral services are set for tomorrow. I think visitation's at 11 o'clock. Funeral's at 1:30 in Columbus, Mississippi. And it's just a heartbreaking thing. Park